Welcome to Creamer Media's Polity. I'm Brad Doubleman. I'm in Parktown to meet with political analyst Aubrey Machiki to discuss the challenges of leadership in South Africa. Aubrey, in your opinion, how will the decision to suspend ANC Youth League President Julius Malema, on top of expelling him, affect the leadership of the ANC?
Well, the question for me is the extent to which it will divide either the Youth League or the ANC. A lot more is at stake for the ANC as far as maintaining its cohesion and unity is concerned. And therefore, I think it must proceed with caution in how it manages the disciplinary process, because, as I keep on saying, the disciplinary process is part of a broader political battle. And therefore, the ANC must do very careful calculations about the extent to which certain and specific decisions may cause more divisions in the ruling party than they do to the Youth League.
You say that there is a perception within the ANC that certain leaders have aligned themselves with a movement to unseat Jacob Zuma at the Mangaung conference in December. How much truth is there in this perception?
Well, for me, the question is not whether a perception is grounded in truth or not. The question for me is whether a perception exists, and this perception does exist. And secondly, whether the existence of that perception informs the political decisions and choices of individuals and groups of individuals in the ANC. And therefore, to the extent that there is a perception that some in the leadership of the party are beginning to align themselves to forces that are ranged against President Jacob Zuma, what will happen to those people who are perceived to be aligning themselves in that manner will depend on whether the perception becomes a key driver of political choices or not in the ANC.
Nedbank Group Chairperson Roel Corser recently criticized the ANC leadership on their lack of commitment to constitutionalism and accountability to democracy. Do you think that business leaders should voice their views on political issues in the country? And what is your take on the ANC's rebuke to Corser's criticism?
I think all citizens and all groups of citizens have the right to voice their opinions about the state of the nation. And therefore, I do not think there's anything wrong with a business organization or the leader of a corporation or the leader of a business organization expressing his views about the state of the nation. What I have a problem with is the fact that aspects of what Dr. Roel Corser said were intemperate. Now, if you seek to influence opinion and therefore inform the content of decisions and action, you must avoid intemperate language, because all you achieve is causing anger to the other, and the other in response may himself be intemperate. But since the other here is the ruling party and the government, my expectation was that the ruling party and the government would be, how can I say, would be less intemperate in their response and show leadership. Instead, in its responses, particularly early responses by leaders of the ANC, I thought they were lacking both in thought and leadership. Now, if I were the president of the country, and some viewers might say, God forbid, I wouldn't rely only on formal processes to engage in dialogue with key social partners, including business. I think I would make opportunities for leaders across the board to spend some quality time with me in an informal setting such as my home. I think the president should create opportunities for leaders across the board to spend some time with him in Nkandla, for instance. Because when we look at an individual and all we see is a lump of ideas we must oppose, it's very difficult to find common ground. It's only when we start knowing each other as people that it is possible to identify areas of common concerns and areas where we can actually cooperate and through that achieve the emergence of a common vision.
You argue that there is a disconnect between our national strategic goals and the individuals we deploy as leaders in key areas of national life. Please elaborate.
I do not think that South Africa suffers from a shortage of leaders. I think we suffer from a lack of leadership. Unfortunately, in different areas of South African life, we have the talent of putting the wrong person in a leadership position. Because you must bear in mind, not everyone who occupies a leadership position is a leader, which means we must improve our conception of leadership as something that should transcend narrow interests in society. We must link leadership functions to our common developmental and national goals, and in doing so, develop the alternative talent of matching our developmental and national goals to the right individuals who must take leadership across the board.
In your opinion, what are the greatest challenges facing the leadership of this country?
Well, domestically, inequality, poverty, unemployment are key challenges we must face. And these challenges must be faced by leadership in the state, in business, and in civil society. But to some extent, the citizen must lead from behind, at some point lead from the front, in making sure that those who occupy leadership spaces do so effectively in relation to these challenges. I also think that the challenge of leadership in South Africa is about positioning South Africa appropriately on the continent, so that we shift the continent from the peripheries of the global system to the core of the global system. But also, leadership will also have to occur in the context of changing global dynamics. The extent to which South Africa will become a leading nation in ensuring that those global dynamics change to the benefit of humanity as a whole will depend on the quality of leadership that we have, not only in this country, but on the continent and globally.
Thank you, Aubrey.
You're most welcome.